Hello, little children. It is Mr. Moorhead. I hope you guys are doing well and staying sanitized. Today, we're going to talk about economic systems. This is something that we've already talked about. There will be two bits of information that may seem new to you. I'm just using synonyms for the words. So, without anything further, let's just go ahead and get started. So remember, an economic system, that is the study of production, distribution, resources, blah, blah, blah. It's money. Think of the M in economic as money. The first system that we talked about was capitalism. Capitalism is the system where people will own their own business. There's lots of competition encouraged because the thought process is that if two businesses or three or four, ever how many, compete against each other, the consumer, remember that's another economic word we like to use instead of customer, the consumer is going to get better prices, they'll get more choices, and they're going to get better products. Again, we have Ford, Chevrolet, Mercedes, we've got all these different car companies that compete against each other. Remember that we have our guy, Adam Smith. He came up with the idea that will form capitalism, and he wanted laissez-faire. That means that the government stays out of the business to the fullest extent possible. Now, there was some circumstances where they had the government get involved in business, but he wanted those as rare as possible. Now, a synonym for this is market economy or free market economy. You go to a supermarket. eBay is a market. Now, when you think of a market, you go in and you shop, but you are dictating the price. You control the price. If you're buying a Pepsi and it's 2 liter for $10 and you think that's too much, you don't buy it. If everyone thinks it's too much, the business will have to lower the price or go out of business. So again, it's a market economy or a free market economy. Our next one is socialism. Now remember, this is going to be government or community-owned business. Competition in this system is discouraged. I want you to think of the post office. The post office is owned by the government. The post office has no intent for the post office in Garner to be 1,000 times better than the post office in, say, Wilson's Mills, North Carolina. They would ideally want them to be the same. Again, competition is going to be discouraged. The post office in Garner doesn't want all of its customers trying to go to the Wilson's Mills post office or vice versa. There's no benefit to that. They offer the same services. Within the system, there's not going to be extreme rich or extreme poor. However, there is still going to be rich. There's still going to end up being poor. In the system, you're going to have a heavy, heavy tax. You may only see a couple of dollars out of whatever you make. With this heavy tax, the money is taken and basic services are provided through the taxes. Now we have a synonym for this. This is a command economy. The way that I'd like for you to remember this is that the government, again over here, the government is commanding the economy. The government's telling the economy what to do. The government's saying, hey, we don't need extra businesses. We don't need more workers or workers to compete against each other. We're in charge of what's being produced. We're in charge of price. We're in charge of all those things. So the government is, again, commanding the economy. This is a synonym. So you see socialism, I want you to think of command economy. If you see capitalism, I want you to think of market economy. Now, I do have one note down here. You can see it. I'm rolling my mouse over it. Communism, technically not an economic system. All right. China is communist, but they actually have a capitalist economy. You can own your own business in China. That's fantastic. That's why we have so much stuff that says made in China. So With that said, there is such a link between communism and socialism. Again, USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. So, communism and socialism are sometimes so tied together that you might have someone say communism is a command economy. At one point on the social studies end of grade test, um, communism was listed as a command economy. Again, if we're getting really, really technical, it's not really an economy, it's a government that forces an economy, but nonetheless, know that sometimes command economy is referring to communism, or some people use it that way. Our next one. This is a traditional economy. Don't really have a lot of these anymore. You might find one in the Arctic. You might find one in some of the most rural places of Africa, the rural places of Asia, maybe in the Amazon of South America. But a traditional economy is one where you just see people trade. They're not going to use money. They might say, hey, I can fix this if you give me a pound of green beans. So they are simply trading either items to each other, or they're trading a service for an item or a service for a service. A traditional economy, you will see these appear when an economy collapses as well. I want you to think of The Walking Dead. We've talked about that just a little bit. In The Walking Dead, money serves no purpose whatsoever. If you have thousands of dollars, no one's going to sell you anything. The money has no value. So you see in that show that somebody might trade food for gasoline, or somebody might trade like a weapon for food. So that is a traditional economy. You can see it there. In the post-Hurricane Katrina New Orleans, where it took almost a month for people to kind of get back to somewhat being normal, you saw a little bit of a traditional economy there. People were trading water for gasoline, or canned food for diapers. So if an economy collapses, it kind of goes back to this traditional economy. All right, our final thing, a mixed economy. There is no economy on planet Earth that is pure. So even within our capitalist system, the post office is owned by the government. Amtrak, I believe, is owned by the government. So the schools are owned by the government. So you will see no perfect economy, perfectly pure economy, I should say. However, generally, once you get an economy that's like 70, 80, 90% either command, or 60, 70, 80, 90% capitalist, most people just call it a capitalist economy, or a market economy. Again, if they see that the majority is going to be owned by the government, they will call that a command economy. So with that said, you will have some people get really technical with this definition. They want it to be 50-50, like half of the businesses are owned by the government, the other half are owned by people. I guess you could kind of use that for mixed economy. But again, a mixed economy is one that it's just using more than one economic system. And if we're being technical, like all economies are a mixed economy. All right, so let's review this and see how we did. We have economic systems. Our synonym for capitalism is a market economy or free market economy. Our synonym for socialism is a command economy. Now, again, remember, sometimes people will say communism is also a command economy, and I explained that to you. A traditional economy, that's one that's based heavily on trade. They don't really use money. And mixed economy, that might use this capitalism, it might use some element of socialism, it might use some element of trade. It doesn't really have to be a 50%, 50%. Most people look at it, it could be like 98-2. That would still be a mixed economy. And again, most all economies in the history of the world have been a mixed economy. All right, I will have a Quizlet up for you guys to work on. Just go through, play that, try to get 100% on the matching a few times. It'll give you different words each time. You might play one of the other games on there. And again, we probably don't want to go over 30 minutes on that. I hope everybody's doing well, and I look forward to meeting with you guys again soon.